All right, for our presentation, we chose to do El Salvador. My name is Laura Castro. I have Noemi Garcia with me. Marco Reyes and Noah were not able to join us due to schedule conflicts or just not responding to texts. But we're here to present. Okay. Um, we're going to be describing the culture. We're going to be talking about food, family structure, housing, religion, and education. When it comes to food, El Salvador has plenty of great dishes. They have empanadas, tamales, and their most popular dish by far would have to be their pupusas. It is their national dish, and it's what El Salvador is most known for.
For the family structure, El Salvador is most commonly found to have family structure of a traditional setting. The men in the family are considered the head of households, which is the men who go and work and they'll bring in the income, while the women in the family take care of the children and the household tasks such as cooking and cleaning and laundry and such.
When it comes to El Salvador's housing, it really does differ based on location and economic status. In a lot of rural areas, houses are mainly made of adobe or other natural resources. However, in urban areas, it can be a wide variety of housing, like apartments or individual houses. It just depends on location and economic status for most families.
For religion, Christianity is the dominant religion in El Salvador. The Catholic share of the population is on decline, while Protestantism is experiencing rapid growth in recent decades. According to the World Religion Database 2020, 96.68% of the population has a Christian background and 2.57% is non religious, atheist, or agnostic. 0.57% follow ethnic religions. The Constitution of El Salvador provides for the freedom of religion and prohibits religious discrimination. Publicly offending others' religious beliefs or damaging religious objects is punishable by imprisonment.
When it
For Educare in El Salvador, they split up the education system into 3 cycles. The first cycle is first to third grade, second cycle fourth to sixth grade, and third cycle seventh to ninth grade. After these cycles, they move on to secondary school, which is high school for them, where only 33% of them attend, because majority of the citizens in um, El Salvador, they are of low income, so majority of these students do step back from school and unfortunately are not able to complete their education due to having to work to provide for the family and feed themselves.
Now, when it comes to cultural dimensions, we're going to be talking about high context versus low context, high power distance versus low distance, high emotion display versus low emotion display, individualistic versus collectivist, and monochronic versus polychronic. Um, as for high context versus low context, El Salvador is considered high context. The people of El Salvador find it rude for someone to get straight to the point, which is why their communication style is indirect. Nonverbal example would be when talking, the people of El Salvador use hints or suggestions when talking to each other.
For a high power distance versus low power distance, El Salvador is of a high power distance culture because of a lingering authoritarian past in diverse fields. The culture has an accepting attitude of inequalities towards less powerful individuals and organizations within the country. It's why we see so many of the lower income families and children unable to complete their education. It's also why we see so many families that are still in their traditional household setting where the woman stays at home, takes care of the household while the men go off to work.
Now, high emotion display versus low emotion display. While this can vary from individual personality, situation, or context, there are some cultural norms when it comes to emotional display in El Salvador. For example, in family or social events or religious celebrations, Salvadorans show high emotion display of enthusiasm and joy. On the other hand, in a public setting, Salvadorans tend to have a low emotion display. Serious or reserved behavior is expected in public, as well as maintaining control and composure.
For collectivistic versus individualistic, El Salvador is vastly collectivistic centric country, valuing the family unit above all else. Core values like trust, loyalty, generosity, etc. are held at a high regard, whilst more individualistic values are viewed as uncharitable. An example is them still sending money and gifts back to family members in large quantities when they work when they are migrants living and working abroad. There is proof found on the CIA World Facebook website when it states that close to 20% of El Salvador's GDP, gross domestic product, is received from migrants living and working abroad. With these statistics in mind, it's evident that remnants of the collectivistic culture that Salvadorians grew up within follow them abroad, even when younger members of the family migrate to different countries in search of more lucrative work opportunities. The family unit is still prioritized, which is proven through the aforementioned statistic.
All right, and when it comes to monochronic versus polychronic, El Salvador is generally considered to have a more monochronic orientation. Punctuality is valued in professional and formal settings, and there is an expectation for meetings and appointments to start and end on time. Individual preferences and practices can be different, and some flexibility may be observed, especially in more relaxed and social situations.
We did do the prejudice. So, a prejudice people have when they hear that a person is Salvadorian is that they are uneducated and poor. Another prejudice is they are in some way affiliated with gang life because gang life is such a prominent part of El Salvador's history.